I'm sure there's trunks full of ballots littered throughout the city of Chicago and precinct committeemen's trunks that wouldn't match up with any photo. If we have a corrupt election system, ladies and gentlemen, we will continue to get corrupt politicians. Welcome now, Sharon Maroni, speaking on voter irregularities. Sharon was a founder of Patriots Heart Network, the original voice for the first two national Tea Party movement's broadcasts on Internet radio. She traveled with the second and third Tea Party Expresses, speaking on citizen journalism. She has instigated legislation to audit early voting. Passing one law has audited Chicago's elections, awaiting action, and she lived to be here to tell about it, and is working on a voter registration audit bill for Illinois and the photo voter ID bill. Welcome, Sharon Maroni.
Well, hello there. I just want to add one little point. You may or may not have heard the news that under Mr. Emanuel, Chicago's death rate has gone up 60% from murders. So that's why we definitely want his gun control laws. You know, my name is Sharon Maroni, and I came to you from the suburbs of Chicago, a little town called Barrington. And I only have a few minutes to tell you everything that we have to do, but I want to start out by saying Defend the Vote was inspired by a concept, Someone Died for Me Today is our website.com, and we believe that our military make the ultimate sacrifice, and when it really comes down to it, they do that for our vote. And so I'm inspired every day to get up in the morning and fight despite whatever obstacles are in my way, because I figure it's a heck of a lot easier than if I was in some sand dune in Iraq. So when I speak to you today, keep that in mind, if you would, please. And I want to tell you that what we do at Defend the Vote is we empower citizens to protect elections, and we have a totally different perspective than most people because we start at the concepts of security. We're not looking to necessarily catch somebody in the act of fraud, because by the time you catch them in fraud and you get them all set up through the legal courts, the fraud has already happened. And what happened is I started in this process through a whole different series of actions related to the eligibility issue. And as I got into Illinois code, I was shocked to find out that we have one problem I'll tell you about the eligibility is not only do we not check for the citizenship of Mr. Obama or whoever is running for the president, we also don't check for citizenship of anybody running for any office across the state. And we are challenging that to make that change. In the Senate right now, Dan Duffy offered a bill about that. Secondly, we got involved and did the studying and found out that we have never audited early voting. Now let me tell you what that means in Illinois. 18% of your vote is done through the early vote. If you're early voting in Chicago or Cook County, now Springfield is different because you don't use the same system. But if you're voting there, there's a paper trail that's on the side here. And that confirms what your vote is, and it's called the VPAT, Voter Verified Paper Audit Trail. The problem is that they never have compared the vote here with the numbers that they actually put out. There's no after audit on early voting. And we discovered that about a year ago, and I got good news for you because it must have startled somebody up here. July 4th, Governor Quinn signed the first early voting audit bill in Illinois. So we had our first one in April. Yeah, you know, and I was so shocked to find out. I even had arguments with, expert election law attorneys, and they said, surely we've done this. And I said, no, never before. And I woke up in the middle of the night about a month after discovering this and realized that we had serious problems with the security protocols in Chicago. With 4 days' notice, we sent out a team before the April 2011 elections. What we did is we sent out a team to 239 precincts in Chicago. We used audit sheets that were devised based on their basic election judge training guide. Are any of you here election judges? Okay, so you have a basic training guide that has to be approved by the state. We evaluated 239 precincts on 11 standards. 139 times they failed to seal the ballot box in Chicago. We documented that, guys. Now, and we wrote a report. I don't have the time to go into all the details, but trust it to say our report was peer-reviewed by Argonne National Laboratories and published in a very prestigious journal called the Journal of Physical Security. And while our report found that 90% of the time they failed to follow their own security protocols, their report found that 100% of the time those protocols failed to secure the ballot. And that was a little bit of a shocker for Chicago, and they tried to ignore us, but they didn't, and they actually changed their security procedures. Because another thing, by the way, that we found is that they were actually running early voting with non-citizens. They weren't using election judges. And then I FOIA'd their I-9s and found out they hadn't been properly documented to even be here. So they changed that rule too. Now all of the early judges are either a Republican or a Democrat registered voter, for the most part. So that brought us up to April, and we were getting ready to do a statewide audit. And part of what Defend the Vote believes is that we have to check in the security protocols at every single election district in the state. We are so blessed in Illinois because we do not have centralized elections. And I want to warn you, the state is trying to trick you into making your precincts and your voting locations more in voting centers. They want to take the vote out of the precinct. Stand against that as best as you can. We do not want that. So coming up to the last election that we just had in March, I know I'm talking fast, forgive me. I had another one of those wake up in the middle of the night moments, and I got deep into Cook County's security protocols. Oh my God. I was stunned with Chicago. I have gray hair from Cook County, okay? It absolutely stunned me. And what I proved is that they literally are holding unlawful elections. There is specific code that says if they do not follow certain specific protocols, they shall not open the polls. And it says if they do not seal the ballot box and take them back to the receiving stations, they shall not count the ballot. Their protocols for election judges violate these laws. I found it out the weekend before the election. I dropped everything on my plate, and I put together a letter, and I went down to Patrick Fitzgerald. I went down to Cook County State's Attorney. I went down to, all the big wig State's Attorney guys that know what they're supposed to do, and the Attorney General, and I said, you cannot open the elections tomorrow because it's unlawful. The people that hold the keys, see, when you get your election materials delivered to your precinct, they're delivered in a big giant box. It's called a voter supply carrier. The law requires the chain of custody on that key to be flawless. Cook County sends it home unsealed with a person that has it for a couple of weeks and has access to the voting material without any control whatsoever. It's also a universal key, by the way, so there's thousands of copies. And that's what's protecting the voting equipment in Chicago. So we went down and we met with Chicago, and I'm going to wrap really fast because I know I have to. But we went down to Chicago, and they basically gave us a brand new brochure kind of bragging about their protocols. And they said that, Cook County Clerk, Mr. David Orr, is going for, you guys ready for this one? He's going for best practices in holding elections in the whole country. I'm like, oh, yeah? Best practices, but you don't follow the basic law. I'm trying to get the funding. I believe I acquired it on Friday, and we will be going to court and asking for them to either not certify the elections or after the court case, we will be going there to have them get a mandamus so they actually have to follow the law. And before I wrap, because I see it's my time, I want to say that there is a voter registration law that I'm working on with Senator Lawson right now to help clean up the rolls. And if you were Defend the Vote, if you would like to sign up for our mailing list, I'll come around and I have a flyer for you, okay? And thank you, you guys. There's nothing more important than your vote. You could put 1 million hours into a campaign, and if you don't have security, you've done nothing. And the greatest problem that we have in this country, it's not the one person walking in and committing voter fraud. It's the fact that we do not have a secure chain of custody on our electronic vote. And I could prove that. Thank you.
Sharon.